I felt the need to post a video today outside of the norm for this page, and that is to step outside of professional wrestling and instead talk about professional football, namely the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm doing so because I'm frustrated. And if you can hear in my voice, I've been shouting today. And I'll get to why before I'm done. But the reason I'm so angry is I've watched the games. I've seen the national sports media start to put their finger on what's wrong in our state and wrong with our team. But then I hear the local media make excuses. And excuses don't win football games. In fact, excuses are the reason why football games continue to be lost. The biggest problem we have on our team is the highest level of positions. If you look at our coaching, and if you look at our quarterbacks, they're to blame. Let's start with the coaching. How is it allowed that a team could have such a bad special teams performance all the time? We've just not been good in special teams. Teams that are not very good, like the Rams, even burned us on special teams. To put it in perspective, some of the fans had compared us to the Jets. And the Jets are the drizzling shits. And that falls on coaching. Because if we know it's bad, and we're not getting any better with it, well, what's wrong with this picture? The second thing that nobody wants to talk about, and it's the most important one, is the guy under center. Number 3, Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer has always been an average to slightly above average quarterback at best. He is not that anymore. His biggest draw was always that he can chuck the football down the field. He can chuck the football down the field still, but the other team catches it. And we could sit here and we could say, oh, it's John Brown's fault, or it's Michael Floyd's fault, or they ran the wrong route. Couple of times, maybe. But this is a continual problem. And it's not just chucking the football down the field. Look at last week against the 49ers. We get the ball over on a fumble. First play is a bizarre toss to the left that is intercepted right away and almost let them back in the game. And nobody wants to say, maybe Palmer doesn't have it. If you're watching this, people who are watching it online, people who are watching it on television and commenting on it, are calling these sports talk radio shows and are starting to point the finger at Palmer, saying maybe he's got a diminishing skill set, something they accused Peyton Manning of last year before he got taken out for Brock Osweiler. Maybe he's not as good as he used to be. Maybe, and they're saying these things, and I don't think this is true because 36 is not very old, but they're saying maybe he's having problems with depth perception. Maybe he's having trouble with physical attributes, and those might be the case. Now, I realize he's under pressure, but look at his statistics. And I don't just mean how many yards he threw for. Look at the important stats, the turnovers. Look at what he does when the game is on the line. This year, there's been at least 3 games that he's cost us because he's thrown horrible passes when the game was on the line. Today, he took sacks when the game was on the line. Last week, in a game against the 49ers, he took 2 sacks in a row and fumbled when we could have got a touchdown and put the game away. We ended up winning a game against a shitty team by 1 point. And nobody wants to say, well, Palmer looks like crap. No, Palmer's great. It's not his fault. It's everybody else's fault. It's the receiver's fault. It's the whole offensive line's fault. At some point, it has to be the quarterback's fault. At least in some way, it has to be his fault. Now, our second option ain't exactly great. We saw Drew Stanton. He didn't do much against the win, mind you, against the 49ers in San Francisco on Thursday night a few months ago. But it was a win. Maybe doing less with the quarterback, letting David Johnson be the guy, is what we need. Look, I don't know that I'm saying that we need to put Drew Stanton in, but I'm saying that we cannot continue to play these games each and every week and see Carson Palmer screw up and have everybody associated with Arizona sports talk radio make excuses for why he's screwing up. You just can't do it. There was a caller today that called in, and he said Arians needs to have some responsibility put on him because Arians is picking horrible plays. Let me set the stage for you. We're first down and 10 at the 12-yard line with a chance to win the game, around 2 minutes to go. You have time to move the ball down the field. We don't do that. We start throwing these chuck balls. And as we saw earlier in this game, the chuck ball just means that he's going to throw another pick. And it damn near was. We don't gain a yard. Let's be honest, in that entire last drive, except for penalty yards, we didn't gain a yard. Not one. Why? Because we were picking horrible plays. Oh, and the sports media wants to say, well, how many times did you ever call plays? It's very difficult at this level. Yeah, it must be, because we really suck at it with the people we've employed. Bottom line is when the people watching it are getting it and the people in charge are making excuses for it, there's a problem. I don't want to go back to a 2000-year Arizona Cardinals. I don't like having losing teams. It's not good enough for me to just have a team. I want winning teams. And Carson Palmer stands in the way of that. So it's time we start doing something about it. And if Bruce Arians wants to stand in the way of that, maybe he needs to go too. Because I remember we had a coach that led us pretty far once. We didn't win. Remember that, Arizona fans. We didn't win the Super Bowl. We lost it. But we had a coach that quit on us. And his name was Kent Wisenhunt. And he didn't have the heart for it at the end. And I'm starting to get that feeling about Bruce Arians. If he doesn't have the heart for it, maybe he needs to go. Let him go to the 65 and older year places to live. He can take Palmer with him because he's around that age. And then go that way. But this is the end. Bottom line, I wanted to do this video because I wanted to post something that actually points the finger where it belongs. And the national media is starting to get with us. Did you see the post done by ESPN? They called Arizona's team mentally weak. Mentally weak. And you know why they called us that? Because we are. And that falls on coaching too. Because if you can't jones up your players to want to play, then you're not doing your job as a coach. Last year we had an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. And our wonderful quarterback that nobody wants to blame had the worst game in the history of Arizona quarterbacks. 6 turnovers, and we left him in the game. We left him in the game, and we employed him to come in another year. And in the preseason, he showed that he was no better than he was in that game. And this season, not much better either. It's time. It's time. Don't talk about culture changes. Don't talk about any of that bull. It's time to be out with the old. And that's that. I'll leave you with this thought as well. How good is Patrick Peterson, really? I'm noticing a lot of penalties that don't need to happen that he's causing. Oh, that reminds me. Part of the reason I don't have a voice is because I was screaming at the TV. There was a questionable call on the late hit on the quarterback or a roughing the passer hit. Then I said, all right, fine. Then Bradford broke out with Peterson. And in Peterson's defense, I'm not blaming him for this one. He was flagged for roughing. Well, if Bradford wants to play the role as a quarterback of a receiver, then he has every ability to take the same kind of shot that a receiver would take. And if he's not man enough to take it, then they shouldn't call a penalty on it, because that's not our fault to know the skill set of an opposing quarterback who's not playing the quarterback position. And then the late hit, when the guy was down, got up, and we pop him, and then we're called for, I guess it was a late hit or a helmet-to-helmet or whatever it was. What are we supposed to do, just let him run for a touchdown? We're not supposed to hit him? It's illegal for us to hit somebody? Is that what it is? Lost my shit with that one. And that's why my voice is what it is. Disgusting calls by the officials, but an even worse call by the Cardinals. Bad play choices. Carson Palmer knew he was being pressured every play. Twice on the ending drive. He, quote, wasn't ready for the snap. Then what the hell was he ready for? Get your head in the game. You're paid enough to.